We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Smith,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Davies,
Here.
Councilmember Hogencourt,
Here.
Councilmember Scribner,
Here.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Here.
Everybody is present.
Thank you. If you please stand for invocation. Pastor Mike Sackford from Vineyard Church. Good evening. Thank you for being here before
Oh,
us.
my pleasure, my pleasure. Mayor Smith, distinguished council members, am I on? They tell me I normally don't need one.
You do.
I'd like to point out Key was mean to me. Oh, you got it.
All right.
Can we pray together? Father, we're grateful tonight as we start this meeting to do the business of this city. We're grateful that we stand in your presence. And we collectively, Lord, even where there is differing opinions and trying to discern and value all that we need to decide, we just are so grateful that we live in the space that we do, that we've all gotten to call Tehachapi home, and we truly care for this place, Lord, but we recognize that our care for it pales in comparison to yours. And so we ask tonight, as we come to do the business of this, your city, Lord, we recognize that we make decisions tonight, Lord, discern right from wrong for something that does not belong to us. We steward what does not belong to us. So we ask for your grace, Lord, for the council members, for the city leadership. Would you give us your grace, your presence, your kindness, that we would choose rightly, discern well, for the benefit of all. Lord, we together lift up our emergency personnel, Fire Chief Kent and his crew. Would you continue to embolden them and give them all they need to protect us and serve us so well the way that they do. Lord, we do just call out to you tonight and say, let your kingdom come and your will be done in this place. Thank you for the leadership you've given us. Grace them to lead us well, Lord, we pray. We ask these things, Jesus, in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Michael, would you lead us in the pledge?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. These items are marked with an asterisk. They're considered non-controversial by staff and will be taken by one roll call vote unless someone from the audience would like something removed for separate discussion. Is there anyone who would like to have something removed from consent agenda? Council? Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
I so move.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davies,
Yes.
Councilmember Hogencourt,
Yes.
Councilmember Scribner,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Yes.
Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Audience oral and written communications. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to bring something to the council's attention that's not on the agenda tonight? All right. Next item is going to be item number 5, disbursements, bills, and claims for RSI Petroleum.
Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself because I'm an employee of RSI Petroleum.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask any questions on item number 5 for RSI Petroleum, bills and claims? Council? Do I have a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Hogencourt,
Yes.
Councilmember Scribner,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Yes.
Let the record show it was a 4-0 vote with an extension from Mayor Pro Tem Davies to approve the disbursements and bills for RSI Petroleum.
Thank you. Item number 7, Assistant to the City Manager report. Corey?
Lots of hats tonight, all right. As the council is aware, what I'm bringing you this evening is our implementation plan for SB 1383. We've spoken about this quite a bit in different meetings at different levels of the regulation process through the state of California and CalRecycle. We've been working with CalRecycle and our local hauler waste management to implement the requirements of 1383, which will become law in the state of California on January 1st, 2022. It addresses short-term climate pollutants through the diversion of organic waste with the intent of cutting organic waste and methane gas in landfills by implementing a variety of new organics recycling requirements. And during the rulemaking process, the City Council sent a letter to CalRecycle expressing concerns over this, the cost increases potentially, also the addition of the mandatory organics recycling as part of the curbside programs we offer. The comments were received, and they did actually impact some of the further legislation that's come out regarding SB 1383, as well as sort of a delayed enforcement tactic that CalRecycle is now going with for some of the jurisdictions. So that's kind of the basis for the implementation plan that I'm going to present to you briefly here this evening. So on our PowerPoint here, start from the beginning there. SB 1383, again, just briefly, it's the opportunity to reduce short-lived climate pollutants here in the state of California. It requires several different facets to it, including edible food recovery, curbside recycling, some procurement requirements for the city as well. Basically, the state was looking to just reduce those organics materials inside the landfills and divert them elsewhere or recycle them. So here's some of the requirements and where we sort of sit. Let me go back real quick to the last slide, just because organic waste, I want to make a mention, it's 2/3 of our waste stream according to CalRecycle. Food waste is the largest waste stream in California, and about 18% of what we dispose is food waste. And they also, the new law 1383 requires much of the food waste stream, they believe is, they want to rescue about 20%. They're not sure how much is actually edible. So, so there's hope that they have very lofty goals in my conversations with the county of Kern, also with waste management. I think the state is possibly overstating the amount of edible food that's out there that could be recovered. If you talk to a restaurant owner, they don't over-order more than they regularly serve because it's lost money, lost profit. So some of those goals are sort of ambitious, but food rescue is a part of this, and we'll get that briefly, how we intend to address that. The regulations, as I point out here, is a bit of a timeline. 2020, they actually started with some reductions in landfill organic waste. In 2022, these new regulations take effect. Part of that 2020 law was our commercial organics recycling, which we've been doing since 2017 and 18. And so we already started some of this with our commercial programs for organics. A lot of the targets by these are looking to reduce organic waste by 50% by 2020 and 75% by 2025. Again, these are sort of just numbers that the state has come up with to base their assumptions on these new regulations. Here's where we're at in the timeline. We're kind of in that between January 2020 and the January 1, 2022 phase where the regulation takes effect and state enforcement begins. So we went through the rulemaking process. We were pretty vocal in that. CalRecycle changed their mind, and they admitted from what the city of Tehachapi has kind of pushed back on in terms of implementing in a hurry, potentially adjusting rates right after COVID, and they understood that. So there are some regulations that will take effect on the 22nd, but it's not, I'm sorry, the 2022, but it's not really until 2024 that we're required to actually enforce these regulations completely, and the state has also given us a lot of grace to implement these on our behalf as well. CalRecycle expects that we'll sort of make some planning and programmatic and budgetary decisions about organics by 2022. So at some point we'll be bringing you back an ordinance to put all these things into our codes, update our recycling codes and all that stuff. So It shows that we're making progress. This plan is a part of that too. We're basically attacking the low-hanging fruit. So some of that in 2022, what we want to do, we want to establish an edible food recovery program. We're not going to physically have the program. We have a lot of community partners already doing this stuff. The Salvation Army, Albertsons, Walmart, Save Mart, they're already donating this stuff. And they're already working with the Community Action Partnership of Kern to sort of monitor it and distribute this. So we just need to kind of create a paper trail that shows where these donations are happening, where this edible food is going, and how it's being diverted out of the landfill. That's really that diversion number is key. So we're gonna do that. A lot of it's just formalizing a program that is in place. We also will be working with Waste Management to conduct education and outreach about what would go in a bin. I mean, what is considered organic material. There's a procurement piece, which I'll get to in a moment, and then capacity planning, which is mostly at the county level. We work with the county of Kern to identify certain people considered to be food generators. We only have a couple. It's either really large restaurants or supermarkets. So we have a couple supermarkets in Walmart. Those are the three that target. We don't have restaurants big enough or a food production facility here in the city. So a lot of the low-hanging fruit stuff for us is mostly just getting together a list and paperwork and that sort of thing. And then 2023 is our target to implement curbside programs, and we'll start working on that here very shortly. So that's where we stand. We have some jurisdiction responsibilities. Eventually, we'll be providing organics collection to all residents and businesses, and as I pointed out, those other steps that we already went through. Part of the process is government is held to, there's sort of every department has a role to play, not just the council and the city manager and those of us involved with the waste stream, but finance and procurement, people with the recycled paper we have to buy. These things are all inside of SB 1383. So you can see this sort of touches a little bit of everything. So on the procurement front, that's a piece that we've started working on already. We're going to be required by law to procure certain levels of compost, renewable gas used for transportation fuels, electricity, heating applications, pipeline injections, or electricity from biomass conversion produced from organic waste. So we're also planning to secure access for recycling edible food recovery capacities, I pointed out. We've looked at this already, and we have a worksheet that the Cal Recycle provided, and we went through it. Based on what we're doing now, we have this target for procurement, and we believe at this point, kind of using running a model number, we're on target to reach 80% of our procurement goal in the first year. A lot of it's just getting credit for things we're already doing. For example, our wastewater treatment plant. Procurement doesn't mean we have to necessarily go buy everything. We have to make sure our stuff's being recycled. Well, all of our sludge from the wastewater treatment plant is sent to a composting company, Liberty Composting, who uses that for erosion control and that sort of things elsewhere in the county and the state. So that counts because we're kind of being recycled, being diverted. So we have that. We have Waste Management runs a lot of trucks on recycled natural gas. We get credit for that as well. And then, of course, our partners, Southern California Gas and Southern California Edison, they have renewable biomass conversion electricity and gas that they put into the pipeline. So we get a percentage of that included as well. So based on those numbers, we're in pretty good shape, about 88% towards that goal. And a few other things will be required in our ordinance, looking at purchasing recycled paper when it costs the same or less than not recycled. So we're in pretty good shape on that one, and that's one of those low-hanging fruit pieces that we are already going after. And then the next part would be well compliant landscaping, which we effectively have. There'll be some updates to that ordinance as well, but the planning department is working on that. So this is kind of when I talk about every department kind of has a role, whether it be public works or that sort of thing, or planning. There's a lot of different avenues in SB 1383. So our really basic implementation plan, we're going to prioritize our implementation program for food rescue with folks like Salvation Army and Community Action Partnership of Kern. Public outreach and presentations like this in conjunction with WM. We're going to adopt the required ordinances to comply with SB 1383 by January 2022. Work towards procuring necessary organic materials and recycled content. And then our target of July 2023 for implementation of curbside organics recycling. So basically a third bin to comply with SB 1383. So that's our our plan moving forward. And we work closely with Cal Recycle and Waste Management to create this plan, and it gives us some flexibility, but it ensures full compliance with SB 1383 by July 1, 2023. We continue to look at service fees. We believe this plan does allow us some additional time to comply with much of this legislation. So staff recommendation today is to adopt this SB 1383 implementation plan. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Corey. Any questions from the public? We got a while to digest this, so, but if you have thoughts or want some input on it that we can be constructive about, let us know. Council comments?
Yes, I do. Corey, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Just for the public, I think the most important date you referenced was July 1st, 2023 is when we will be required to have a third bin at each residence.
Yeah, I mean, technically, the state would like us to have that third bin by January 1, 2022, but a lot of communities have said, hold on, we had a lot of things happen between the time this was signed and implementation, and so they agreed, as long as cities are showing sort of a good faith effort.
Progress.
Yeah, progress. We're dealing with a lot of the other parts of the law, but the curbside can sort of be delayed as long as we're showing that we're complying for most of it. So yeah, we're looking at that July 1, 2023 for a variety of reasons. Give us a little more time, and that's also around the same time when we have a normal CPI adjustment with our contract hauler. It makes billing easier as well, so we sort of target that. And it also gives our hauler a chance to get what they need. We're talking another vehicle, another driver, a whole other route, getting that figured out. So there's a lot of different moving parts.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'm totally against this. I see it in my father's neighborhood down in Anaheim. They got bins everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks hideous. I mean, you drive down and you have no place to put them. I think it's just ridiculous. Like you said, the food waste, we have some large and they're doing their part. I mean, how much are we talking about? We're gonna put more trucks on the road, which is gonna tear up our roads. And then we got more costs for our refuse company to buy more trucks. I'm all about hiring more employees, but it's just the roads are terrible everywhere.
And then it gets sent from your curb to the landfill briefly sorted, and then actually sent down to Bakersfield to the Mount Vernon composting facility, or potentially Chapter. So there's more time for a truck to be on the road to move this stuff around. And these are all things we have really tried to hammer home to Cal Recycle, and they just, it's the law according to them.
Well, we complained once, let's do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, they let us have another year. It's ridiculous. It's more cost. I'm just looking at how it's gonna look in our neighborhoods. And then you go to the dump now, it stinks to high heaven now. What's it gonna do now that you have all that food waste out there? They try to get it blows the other way, but.
We try requesting it every other week, but like a lot of cities that currently have a third bin do, but they brought up that, as you pointed out, the food waste. They said, this isn't just for green yard clippings, this is supposed to be for your food as well, and that, of course, can't sit for a week and not get picked up.
Well, if you do that, that's gonna bring more stench to our neighborhoods. If we have a hot day like we're having now, warm day, I don't want that sitting in my backyard any longer than I have to, if I have to do this. That's just my opinion.
And this is a gimme, correct?
What's that?
It's a gimme. I mean, we have to do it whether we like it.
Yeah, I mean, they pointed out, we initially presented to Cal Recycle the issue of costs and what this would be, and it's actually written in legislation, if we don't do it, if cost is an issue, they still require the city to pay it, and that's about $470,000 out of the general fund if we weren't going to, charge residents for it, which obviously we don't have that.
See, and I have an issue with it because I have a gardener, so all that gets taken away, and then I barely get one bag of trash every week.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like extra money for what, So, I mean, that's my
But
concern.
yeah, this is one of the issues we're pretty much handcuffed with the state of California on. This was a...
I understand that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Susan? Anything?
I just think the raccoons will be happy because it'll be easier for them to forage.
Crows are going to get even bigger.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about the
They
crows.
can open those cans. They're so funny.
Do you have an idea of what the rate increase for our residents is going to be?
Still working on that. We've had some preliminary numbers. and that, takes into account current population, that sort of thing. We hope in a little bit more time, there might be a reduction in that. But it was initially, look, we presented before, it was a pretty substantial potential increase. So we don't want to we're trying to work that number down as much as possible. So it's reasonable because, but again, it's one of those deals where if it's not paid by the ratepayer, the state says, well, then the city can just, either way, it's paid by the ratepayer. If you think about it, right? It's either going on your bill or it's coming out of the general fund. And so either way, it's being paid by the ratepayer. And that would mean, coming out of the general fund would mean cuts to services elsewhere, which we certainly don't want to do that either. So.
All right, thank you.
Mayor Smith, I just would like to point out that this is yet another mandate coming down from the state of California. It's taking away local control. I agree with all the comments that have been made and many more. We have been working diligently with our partner, WM, formerly Waste Management. Cal Recycle is a division of the state of California. We've been working closely with the League of California Cities, pushing this out and even changing the rules of engagement. But at the end of the day, the city of Tehachapi, along with all cities up and down the state, minus some rural communities, so they're kind of picking and choosing who must do this, who doesn't have to do this. But at some point, I would expect that we would be required to have a third can. The presentation that Mr. Costello shared this evening is the current plan. We've again pushed that out at least 18 or 24 months since its original scheduled mandate, and we will continue to do that because trucks on the road, the stench, all those sorts of things, one size does not fit all. If you live in a high-rise in San Francisco, you're programmed to do certain things. But if you live in a rural community like Tehachapi, we need the flexibility of what's doing the best for our city and our community, and that's not the case here. The state of California is mandating that we do that. So this evening we wanted to share what we know with you, get a blessing so that we can continue to move forward, but rest assured we will continue to fight the fight because it's worth fighting.
All right. Any further, Christina?
I just want to thank you in advance. I know a lot of this dialogue has been going on for a long time. We were aware of this years ago when it was first passed. I just want to thank you for your efforts and ask for you to continue to try to find those common sense solutions where it is, in Councilwoman Pogencourt's case, you have 3 pens for a single person in a residence, and just trying to find some equation where the pickup cadence for the routes is in some way acknowledged. I realize that there is a law in place, and we're not in a position to bucket this entirely, but any kind of wins we can find as we implement this. I know that was going on, and so I didn't raise that, but I just want to continue to say you certainly have my support, the whole council support, to find those adjustments where we can.
Are there any considerations given for what Councilmember Pogencourt was bringing up, where maybe you don't need a 50-gallon green waste can, maybe you need a 10 or 15?
Yeah, they're mostly standardized. And Josh from WM is here, Josh Mann is here as well, but I know a lot of these sizes the state actually goes as far as standardizing the size of the bins and even putting colorful stickers on the top to tell you what will go in them. This is all part, and again, also part of the cost as well, because these will have to be rolled out, and so they're all fairly standard size because they've got to fit in the truck. The truck arm has to go out to be efficient. There are, the waiver process is pretty tough because yes, that's address may today be occupied by a single person, and that address goes, that person moves, someone else takes over, and they don't have the service and they've got 4 people living there. So it's very tricky. I've not seen a lot of guidance on residential waivers. There are some in place for businesses. Even those are fairly tricky. We've had just a couple. We've had successfully been able to advocate for them to have a waiver, but it's more and more difficult to get waivers on this thing. We just barely missed there's an elevation waiver, and it's set at 5,000 feet, so about 1,000 feet shy of that. There's a population waiver, and I think it's below 5,000. So we're kind of just barely missing these thresholds for that rural community waiver like Greg was talking about.
All right, we've voiced our objections, we've voiced our concerns, but we must and shall adopt the correct, the SB 1383 implementation plan, and hopefully we can get it scaled down in the future here. But do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davies?
No.
Councilmembers Scrivener?
Yes.
Councilmember Pokencourt?
No.
Councilmember Wiggins?
Yes.
Let the record show it was a 3-2 vote to approve the SB 1383 implementation plan.
Thank you. Item number 8, Development Services Director Report. Jay?
Honorable Mayor and council members, I have 3 items for you tonight, but none of them are new. The first one is the amendment to the city zoning code replacing Article 7 and amending Section 11 regulating signs here in the city. So I'm just going to briefly go through these since this is the second read, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you or the public may have. So again, the first reading of this proposed ordinance was presented to the council on September 7th. It is related to the 2015 United States Supreme Court opinion titled Reed versus the Town of Gilbert, Arizona, relating to content-neutral signs and the city's obligation to have a sign code that regulates in a content-neutral way. So the city worked with Lisa Wise Consulting, who was the original author of our 2014 zoning code, to evaluate and update the zoning code, which is Article 7 of the zoning code. So again, the proposed amendments are to replace Article 7 and Section 1110, which is the section in the back regarding definitions within the zoning code. And I did provide a summary again in this staff report, but I gave you a presentation at the last meeting, so please refer to those for any specific details. So my recommendation then is that you adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Tehachapi replacing Article 7 and Section 1110.030 of the City Zoning Code regulating signs. So with that concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Jay. Any public comment on this? Council? Christina?
Make a motion.
Any other comment? All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davies?
Yes.
Councilmember Scrivener?
Yes.
Councilmember Pokencourt?
Yes.
Councilmember Wiggins?
Yes.
Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote to approve to adopt the ordinance of the City of Tehachapi replacing Article 7 and modifying Section 1110.030 of the City of Tehachapi zoning code regulating signs.
Thank you. Item 9. Jay?
Thank you. The second item I have for you tonight is, again, the second reading and adoption of an ordinance approving zoning code amendment 2021-01, the Tehachapi Unified School District, relating to the AT&T mobility plan. So again, first reading of this ordinance was presented to the council also on September 7th. This relates to a zone change of the school district's maintenance property on Valley Boulevard, immediately west of the high school. We would be changing that zone from RSP to T4.5. And through that zone change, the T4.5 would allow the conditional use permit number 2021-01 and architectural design review number 2021-06, which you guys adopted by resolution at the last meeting. All together, that process approves or is designed to approve a proposed 65-foot tall cell tower owned by AT&T Mobility at that location. It's a monopine pole with a series series of additional large natural trees located adjacent to the monopine in order to help, hopefully, in the years to come, disguise that cell tower effectively. So the pictures and renderings are included in the second staff report, but I'm not going to walk through them unless you guys would like me to. And instead, I've talked about the zone change to T 4.5. The zoning map is included there on the third page of the staff report. And so my recommendation is that you adopt an ordinance of the City of Tehachapi amending the Tehachapi regulating plan and finding the ordinance to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Jay. Any comment from the public? Council? Do you have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davies,
Yes.
Councilmember Scrivener,
Yes.
Councilmember Oakencourt,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Yes.
Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote to adopt an ordinance amending the regulating plan and finding the ordinance to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you. Item number 10.
Very good. The third item is, again, the second reading and adoption of an ordinance of the City of Tehachapi amending several sections of the zoning code in order to appropriately regulate accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units. I do want to make one note in the staff report. I think a couple of the pages of this staff report got mixed up in the overall packet. Maybe you guys noticed that. So on the PDF, this is page 94. On page 44 of the PDF is the second page of this staff report. It got attached to the signed code one. So apologies for that, but the entire staff report is included in the packet. The first reading of that ordinance was presented to the council on the 7th. And again, the purpose here tonight, pursuant to the series of enacted state laws, again, the one-size-fits-all approach from the state of California, they updated the California Government Code limiting the standards we may apply to accessory dwelling units. And so this ordinance that I'm proposing tonight and asking for you to adopt brings our zoning code into alignment with the state regulations as they relate to accessory dwelling units. As a reminder for those in the audience, an accessory dwelling unit is effectively a second dwelling on a single-family property. It can also be on a multi-family property, but they're typically a garage conversion or a new second-story carriage house to a garage, or even adding an addition to your home and adding a place for a tenant or a relative to live. So that's, in summary, what an accessory dwelling unit is. And so my staff report includes a summary of the places where we made changes in the zoning code. The detailed changes are included in the actual ordinance itself, which is attached to the staff report and is on display here. And so please go ahead and refer to that ordinance if you have any specific questions. But we updated land use tables, building setbacks, and then most significantly replaced the section of Chapter 6, which speaks to accessory dwelling units now. We completely replaced it with a whole new section that is in compliance with the law. So with that, let me go back to page 44 so I can read my recommendation here. So it's 44 of the PDF. So it's the second page after the sign code one. And so my recommendation, so can you, yeah, there it is. So there's where the recommendation is listed. Adopt an ordinance of the City of Tehachapi amending various sections of the Tehachapi zoning code to regulate accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units, and finding the ordinance to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Jay. Any public comment? Council? Do you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davies,
Yes.
Councilmember Scrivener,
Yes.
Councilmember Oakencourt,
Yes.
Councilmember Wiggins.
Yes.
Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote to adopt an ordinance amending various sections of the Tehachapi zoning code to regulate accessory dwelling units and junior accessory dwelling units, and finding the ordinance to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. A couple things for this evening. First, I'd like to point out, we put in your boxes at City Hall the 5-year adopted budget for the city of Tehachapi. It's 268 pages of amazing work done by Hannah Chong, her staff, and the entire city of Tehachapi. It talks about, it's as I refer to it, it's the Bible, or it's our plan for the city of Tehachapi, right, as we move forward. It's a 5-year budget document, talks about capital improvements, streets and roads, fresh water, wastewater, public safety, police, fire, planning, traffic, parks, so on and so forth. Very proud of this document. So please read it page to page. There will be a test. It's an amazing document. I'm very proud of our team for putting it together. So I want to make mention of that. It's a beautiful photo on the front cover also. It was taken by Tyler Napier, our Deputy Public Works. It was sunset over our wastewater treatment plant. So really cool stuff. Also wanted to let you know that tomorrow, Tuesday at 11 a.m., the City of Tehachapi and Tehachapi Valley Recreation Parks District will be hosting yet another blood drive. They're coordinated by our own Key Budge at the Aspen Center in partnership with Adventist. There's a kind of back and forth between the city and Adventist month to month, because that way we want different blood donations coming in. There's a method to that madness, quite frankly. But tomorrow at 11, Senator Shannon Grove will be joining us, and she'll be presenting to the city, to the mayor, council, Key, a certificate of recognition for how much blood has been donated over the last year, Key. It's an amazing amount.
We're going to hit about 850 donors tomorrow.
850 donors, and that translates into hundreds of lives saved.
2,500 plus.
2,500 lives. So this community is very, very generous, and I'd like to thank everybody that's involved with that process. Also, starting tomorrow, for the next couple weeks, we've been talking about maintaining our streets and roads, right? Keeping them up to par, bringing them back to where they needed to be. So Green Street, from H going north to the airport gate, and Green Street going south from F Street, which is Petra, all the way to the terminus. We're going to start grinding. R.C. Becker is the chosen contractor that you chose at the low bid. They'll be grinding and then replacing all of the asphalt. Very exciting project. In addition to that, the street that is Circle K is on the corner of Tehachapi Boulevard and Davis Street, thank you, all the way from Tehachapi Boulevard to Central Park. We're going to be grinding that street and then replacing all of the asphalt there. And then buttoning up Snyder, right? Snyder Avenue. We've been doing a lot of concrete work. A lot of public utilities have been changed or modified to the current standards. We're finding gas lines, water lines, all kinds of things that were put in back in the day that may have been 6 or 8, 10 inches underneath, and it should be a couple feet. So this kind of stuff excites me because we're really buttoning it up for the next 100 years, quite frankly. So we'll be paving Snyder from the boulevard all the way to the valley. So there's some areas that the pavement is still in good condition. We're not going to take that out and replace it, but certainly, generally speaking, 90-95% of all the pavement that I've talked about will be ground out and replaced over the next couple of weeks. So please be careful. We appreciate everyone's patience. We're very, very excited that we can continue to maintain our infrastructure. Thank you.
The grindings, they're not using those grindings to make new asphalt, it'll be replaced.
Not in this case. So on Mill Street, a couple of years ago, remember we had that train that would actually grind and then mix it with oils and new asphalt and then back out, but not in this case. The job, I don't think, is big enough and it can't handle that, let's say, train of equipment.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Greg? Thank you, Greg. Council member reports, Christina?
No, I'd like to thank everybody for these blood drives. It takes a lot. I appreciate everybody doing that. I've met with many doctors, and unfortunately I can't donate because of my situation with my MS. One doctor says do it, one doctor says no, but I'm kind of jealous because I can't do it, so I just feel like I want to participate, so I want to support you guys and everybody that does this, and I do appreciate everything that you guys do, because hopefully I won't be a recipient of it one day, but you never know. Thank you, Butch. Thank you, everybody.
Are you going to be there tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to try.
Okay, yeah, because I will be out of town. Anyone else? All right, is that all for you, Mark? Susan, anything?
I'm just delighted to see some of the road work coming to an end, especially over by school, Liverpool, and I see progress, it's beautiful. Also, Key, I went by the beautiful award houses. When are they scheduled to receive their awards? Because they didn't have them out in the front yards, but...
They haven't called me yet.
Oh, they have called you, okay.
I've asked them to contact me.
Right.
And it went out in the mail Thursday, I believe. So I'm sure this week I'll receive those calls.
Oh, good, okay, because I was just wondering, because I didn't see them out there when I went by to check it out. Thank you.
That was another question. Since the grindings are coming out, where are they going to go?
To the waste management.
Our typical, in these situations, we take them out of the wastewater treatment plant. We either utilize them or stockpile them for other locations in town where we might have dirt road, or out of the wastewater treatment plant, we have quite a bit of dirt road access road that the service guys utilize. So my understanding is they'll be taken there or at the rodeo grounds for future use that the city might have for them.
Can any of it be used on some very bad alleys?
That's a question I think for Dawn. We entertained that idea. I think that we briefed you on an idea to do that. I don't know where Dawn is at on that program, because that was something that the previous Public Works Director had been experimenting with and determining whether we could do. I don't think that any of the alleys are in the 10-year program right now. So that's something I'll have to take back to Public Works Director Marsh and maybe ask him to get back to you if that's okay.
I know some on the north side can't wait 10 more years, they're almost in dirt anyway.
Fair.
So a layer of grindings would be better than what they've got.
Yeah.
I just remember as a kid on Mill Street, the city would come through with a grinding and they'd put down oil and put the grindings right back down, and the truck and the wheel roller would smooth it out, and we had rejuvenated streets. It's a miracle.
Very good. I will take that request.
Yeah, I'd like to continue to pursue that. It's got to be less than putting fresh asphalt down. So, let's just see if we can't get those folks some help. So then,
I just have one question. You probably told us this, but the Pinion shortcut that all the kids like to take, what's the status of when that's going to happen?
It's in design actively right now with a planned construction for next spring, summer.
Thank you. I argue with my grandson and he goes, oh man, only one person's rolled their truck on that road.
this hour.
Yeah, the kids are totally against it, but all the parents want it done, so.
All right. Well, that's it for the regular part of the meeting. So we will go into closed session, conference with real property negotiators for an airport hangar, correct? And anything action taken will be come back into this room and announce. All right? And thank you all for attending.